All right, babe. What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about an episode for the ladies. So, the importance of doing your own work, but also really the importance of softening your heart, softening into your body, and what that looks like, and why it is very important to do not only for yourself, your children, but obviously your relationship as well.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Revive Couple Podcast. We're Michael and Laura, and together we'll explore everything relationships, personal responsibility, feminine and masculine dynamics, communication, and just some all-around real and raw conversations.
Drawing from our 18 years together, with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few f***s, and lots of love, we deep dive into the male and female perspectives on relationships and navigating the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
So, an episode for the ladies, as she says. Well, that's awesome. I know you've been doing a lot here lately in the last couple of weeks with everything that you got going. So, I mean, elaborate a little bit. Tell us more.
Well, I recently just sent out an email to some past clients of mine, and just the responses that I'm getting back from them are reminding me of, how important it is for women to really, it sounds like so cliche to say, come back home to themselves. I think I just say that on my website. I think that's totally like cliche, but just the importance of really like looking inwards and doing our own work, but how it doesn't necessarily stop. And one of my ex-clients, past clients, she's not an ex-client, she's just a past client that I had worked with, she shared with me that, it's been probably 2 years, I think, since we've worked together, a good year and a half, 2 years. And she was just sharing how she still uses like so much of the processes that she learned through working with me, and kind of always like hears my voice and looks at things differently and shifts her perspective and different experiences and whatnot. And then I had another girl, and I did work with her quite a few years ago, but she just did one of my workshops recently. She bought it a long time ago, and then she just did it. And she was just sharing a lot of like her backstory with me and how the inner child work was so applicable to her and where she is in her life right now, and how boundaries are coming up really big for her and really breaking like intergenerational traumas. And so I just thought it would be kind of cool to chat about this because, as I'm preparing to have another child, I'm kind of stepping away from doing one-on-one work for a little bit. I'm totally like pulling back and just listening to myself and gonna flow with whatever I feel like doing in business, really embracing the femininity in that. Not pressuring myself to come back or do anything by a certain time, but to really just create a new normal for me with having now 2 kids and one being very attached to me again after all of this time and this freedom. But so I've created a self-study program based upon the work that I have done with my clients in the past, so that women can still work through all of this foundational stuff that I say foundational. And I think, to me, sometimes I get in my head and think that this stuff doesn't really matter, or like everyone knows this, or this is just common knowledge. And what my past clients have like really reiterated for me is that, it may be, mostly it's not. And even if it is, the piece of like embodying it and doing the work on a continuous basis, like having the awareness and then having the tools to move through it on a continuous basis with consistency, is where change happens in your life.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot for me with men's groups and things, right? Like, it's everything we talk about, I know that. I know what we're talking about. Like I help facilitate a lot what we talk about. But at the same time, until you actually do it and do it repeatedly, then that's where the changes happen, right? Because we say it all the time, right? Like we know this stuff. Like we know the processes. We know a lot of the self-help development things, right? Like we know them. We've done courses on them. We read about them. I read a lot of books and like nauseum about them. But you still have to do it. You got to put it in practice, and it's always great having someone there to bounce ideas off of and bounce things off of, or even if you had programs to go back on. These emails are awesome too, right? Just like back and forth messaging on how it made you feel, the path you had to go down it, and just how that works and intertwines with your life and how it all connects, right? And just to have someone bounce off of, really.
Well, and to just open up your awareness to different things, right? Because we get so like in our way of doing things because it's what we've done our whole life that sometimes just hearing things a little bit differently is like a complete shift for how you show up or how you react or how you respond or the way you look at things in your life.
It's like growing up on a farm. I just thought of that when you said that. It's like my dad's like, well, why do we have to do it this way? Like, why do we, like, even with horses or something? Well, that's a great example. So it's like, why do we have to? Because my dad used to drive horses in the winter, like lots of sleigh rides and like all around town and do all that stuff. And then later on, I got into horses and like racing horses and harnessing horses like every day. Helped my dad when I was growing up to harness horses, but it's like everything has to be a certain way and you can't deviate off of that. Even if it's like in my head, it's like a little better. Like that's just that next generation is trying to streamline things a little more, do things a little different. It's like, no, this is how it's always been. This is the way it's going to be. And that's just what it is. Right. And it's just funny. That's what made me think of that. Just like growing up on a farm, because there's so much of that, like greasing a baler. I remember that all the time. It's like, you had to do it. Well, in my case anyway, I had to do it this certain way because that's the way he did it. And that's the way he taught me. And that's the way, like, you don't deviate off of that. So it's funny that you say that. I don't know where I was really going with it, but it's just like, it reminded me when you said that.
Well, it's just a good example. And I mean, it also goes to show that like having a new young person, you probably could have maybe like shown him a new way that was more efficient to do it. But being stuck in old ways, not wanting that. So it does relate to, I think, this healing journey as well. But where do I want to go with that? I wanted to say that I know that there's so many people who, stay away from admitting that they could shine a light inwards and do some work on themselves. I think partially because, you're in denial that you got your shit together. At least that was me like 10 years ago. I was like, I got my shit together. I don't need any help. It's
taken me a long time to construct this story in the head. Like, I'm not opening that up. Like, I'm okay. Yeah. Oh, ignorance is bliss. I say it all the time to everybody, right? Like, yeah. Especially if you're okay. If you somehow, like, I was able to do it. Like, I tricked myself into thinking like I was okay in this path. What I'm doing is okay, and things I'm doing is okay. And then that's why I fought so hard early on when we were having troubles. Like, I'm not going to counseling. I'm not going to AA. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not doing anything. Like, I figured this out and I'm okay and I can sleep at night. So this is what I'm doing. But once you start peeling those layers back, that's when you, I don't know, what is it? Like every level has another devil kind of thing, right? And
yeah. Well, and I think that's like the second thing I would say about, diving into shining a mirror on yourself and doing your own work, because there is a fear of what will I uncover. Because I think I'm just going to speak as myself in my relationship, like how I just said, oh no, I'm good. I got my shit together. Clearly a facade back then. I mean, and now I will openly admit that I do not have my shit together, and I don't think I will ever have my shit together, but not in a way of like my life is chaos and stressful, but in the messiness of just being a human and totally surrendering to this human process of like, there's always going to be shit and I don't have to try to be perfect and I can just flow with it. But, the second piece of that is that, if things are okay, then why mess with it? Because that could kind of deviate in two directions. It could be a direction of finding out that things can be better. Like if things are just the way they've always been, like you were saying, like this is the way my dad always greases the baler. So this is what I seen in relationships. This is what my partner's seen in relationships. So this is what we do. Great. But also like it could be better, right? If you tried different things. That's not to convince people to work on their relationship, but it's just like kind of cool to think like, hey, if I've been so ingrained in this way and this is what I saw, like what else is out there? Like how much better could it be? But now on the flip side of that, it could really uncover some things that you have bottled up pretty deeply that you do not want to maybe encounter again, or have resurface or really look at within yourself. And so I think that keeps a lot of people from it too. But either way, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we all find ourselves at this journey when we're meant to be here, right? But I just keep thinking back to, the messages that I've been receiving from clients that I haven't spoke with for a little while, and them just sharing, like, it reminds me that no one has their shit together and everyone has stuff to work on, because, even the people, I love the line of work that we are in, because we get messages from people that you would think they got it all together, like good on them. Like they've got this shit figured out. And I know that they don't, right? Like, because they open up to me. And that's exactly how I was 10 years ago when we came out like with our story and our journey of what led us to where we are now. But so many people even said that to me, like, I would have never guessed. I totally thought you had like all your shit together.
Like so perfect. I don't know.
No, I think it was more me.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I also was really good at putting on that facade. But I think that's just a point of being like, if you even think that your life is perfect or that other people's lives are perfect, then there's work to do, because nothing is perfect. And it's always just a journey. So, I mean, I don't know if does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Absolutely, it does. The only thing I was going to say to it where it kind of caught me is like, as you got to get into this journey, is it's kind of sad to me anyway, from what I see a lot of people. It kind of excites me because there's a few younger people that I talk to, a few younger guys that are in like men's groups and things that you see, and they're opening up to things. But it's typically, you find this stuff or you do any of this or introspection, like all of it's a little too late. Like nothing's ever too late. But in my mind, even, I was like, damn it, if I would have done this, like...
Oh, like to be proactive.
Yeah, it's like you find it a little too late, right? Like even as you get older, you get wiser, you get more mature, you learn things. You need that life experience, because I say it all the time to people, is like, we can talk about all this all day. We do talk about it a lot, but until you live a lot of those experiences, you'll never do it, right? Or like I could tell you all day of what to do, what to eat, where to work out, how to act, what to do, but you still have to screw up and do things how you're going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then fall into or find the right thing. But when you're saying all that, that's the only thing that like kind of sucks, is that most people don't open up to any kind of work on themselves, any kind of self-development till it's later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Or like how you've gone through a lot of messed up shit, right? And it's too bad, because you could be so proactive, you could find the right tools, you could use the right tools so early on in relationships, early on in marriages, early on in anything, and you would peak in 30 and like you would just be skyrocketing, right? Instead of hitting 40, 50 and then figuring out, stumbling, and then kind of coming out of it, which is still, there's lots of life left and there's lots to do in that. But I mean, it would make your 20s so much easier, and then you could just skyrocket from that. But I mean, again, it's all, everybody hits that journey at a different time. Everyone does things at a different time. I mean, people start businesses in their 60s and flourish as well. Like fucking the Colonel Sanders there, he didn't start until like mid 60s, and he still did okay. So, yeah, I like KFC. But but I mean, that's the only thing that kind of I thought of with that. It just sucks. But again, could talk about it all day, but it doesn't change anything. You still have to live that. You have to have most of those experiences, and that's, I think, where most of the deep learning is. It's just nice when you have, and like I say, that's what gets me excited a bit of talking to these younger guys, of at least they're aware. They still got to do this stuff. They're still going to make those mistakes, but at least they're aware enough to like start to learn off of them, start to ask mentors questions, start to do things earlier on instead of keep replaying those same things.
Yeah. Not be like us and just like do it for
Well, yeah.
15 years. and
Keep
then-
replaying that, and then hurting yourself or like putting yourself behind is one thing, but then like leaving a wake of destruction behind that, that's the part that sucks. And that's the part that is really, there's no need for it, or there really shouldn't be. But again, that's part of life.
Yeah. And I think that that's like why I get so excited about working with women because, and couples, because that's like truly our why, is if we can create more loving, connecting homes and children grow up in that with learning these tools and having more self-awareness, right? And more personal responsibility through the actions of their parents, that maybe when they are younger, they don't have to go through as much shit to have that smarts about them, that wits about them. And that's why for me too, and for women, like it's huge for me with women because, and this kind of leads me back to this whole point of talking about this is, you know, as women, we've gone through things in our childrenhoods, I was going to say childhoods, and then our adolescence. Like it's not an easy world out there for men or women. Like people are mean, kids are rude, there's bullies, society, culture, and this is not to place blame on any of it. But there's just like a lot going on, right? So if you don't have that foundation and that really great support structure, and even if you do, you're still going to take shit on. So I'm just going to use women as an example because that's what I said at the beginning of this, and I can speak for myself. So we go through life and we have experiences, and if we don't know how to move through those feelings and how to, you know, come back to a balanced state within our nervous systems, we create beliefs around that and we keep those emotions stuck in our bodies. And then we go out and it all just compounds, right? Like we just make decisions, we get into relationships or we get into situations that all just like compound these beliefs, these core beliefs that we've created within our bodies, within our subconscious. And we, I can't say what I was going to say because I think that would sound really perverted and you'll twist that. We really harden our hearts. We put up walls around our hearts. And this is where in the beginning when I was talking about softening, like I think the word codependent for sure, like in the 80s, 90s got tossed around a lot. But I truly believe that the more I've learned about codependency and also like femininity and allowing ourselves to soften and trust people and experiences and ourselves again because of all of the protection mechanisms we've put up around our heart and our, you know, ourselves over all of these years, like I've explained, that they're really like one and all the same. Like you could call it codependency or you could call it a wounded feminine, where really what we're trying to do is just have some sense of control in our life. And so codependency will say that, well, that looks like trying to fix other people and ignoring, you know, having to fix yourself or looking inwards within yourselves. But I think for one, there's just no tools for people to, it's getting better, but there never used to be really tools for people to even know that that was going on. And then, or sorry, awareness to even know that was going on, and then tools to work through that. But also like the wounded feminine is a lot of the same sort of characteristics, like controlling, needy. Again, all just trying to protect ourselves. So I don't really care if we were to use the word codependency or wounded feminine or empowered feminine or what. What I'm really passionate and excited about teaching women is how to set boundaries within themselves, within their relationships, to build trust and safety within their body again, to question their belief systems. Why do I believe what I believe? Is it because of my upbringing or is it because of circumstances I've encountered? And do I need to keep living like this? No. Do I want to keep living like this? I guess would be like the first question. So that kind of stuff, questioning, our childhoods and why we believe what we believe ties into that. But also, what are we projecting onto our partners? What are we projecting onto our kids? Is that coming from a wounded place? Am I trying to fix others when I could be focusing on myself? So that's why I'm really passionate about my programs and my work that I do. And Reignited Relationships was my original one-on-one program that I created. And I did walk quite a few women through that one-on-one. And these are the emails that I'm getting where people are sharing, how they're still using the processes and this awareness and circumstances. And I love that when it's young moms, because I'm like, oh yes, then they're like teaching their children. But because I'm having a baby now, I pre-recorded the videos and put it all into a self-study course, because I also realize now too that it's like we have to come back to this stuff quite often. Reading it once or working through it once is one thing, but we have to keep coming back to it to really, again, embody it and create that change. So that's what I've done before I have a baby, is create this program that I can give to women that they can work through on themselves to start beginning to make changes with boundaries, inner child work, understanding their bodies, understanding their energetics, understanding their desires. Like there's 12 different modules in it. And then from there, I can take them deeper into breath work afterwards, like releasing, like this is the foundational stuff. And then after, when I'm back on with after having the baby, I can take women deeper into like releasing emotions and using breath work as a tool for that, facilitated breath work. But also a lot of movement and embodiment is really big on my heart to teach women. And that's because, let me catch my breath. That's because this pregnancy has brought me way deeper into that myself. And that was, I'm going to shift for 1 second and then I'll probably come back to that, but I'm kind of done in that arena, I think. You gotta just bear with me. Like I'm crazy all over the place because I could literally have a baby any day. I got to get it all out, literally. So, the pregnancy thing. So when you were talking about like how you have to go through things in order to even like be aware of what you want to change, I was actually having a conversation with a friend who is a past client who's also having a baby at the same time as me about how you learn so much through your first pregnancy and birth and child of what you want and what you don't want in your second. And so if I didn't go through the things I went through with Lennox that weren't ideal in my birthing situation, I wouldn't even have done any of the prep work that I have done for this birth and this labor, which I think is just a deepening of my ongoing healing process. Like we always say, it's the layers of the onion that you're peeling back, right? And so that's why I say the work is never done, but it shouldn't ever stop you from living the life that you want, because the healing will just surface as you move forward in life and do the things you want to do and create the life you want to create. And if you just learn to like unpack that baggage as you're moving along, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm coming to my point here right away that because of Lennox's, our first child's labor and birth and postpartum experience, I'm very well aware of what I want and what I don't want through this. Also very well aware of deeper healing and releasing that I needed to do within my body. And so this pregnancy has been like a huge healing for me because of that experience. So I think, to say we do have to go through the things to learn, but now taking what I have learned through this pregnancy, that's going to come out through my next coaching program, right? I move through it first and then I create to take women deeper through it as well. And a lot of this is movement and releasing things from the body, stuck emotions, falling back in love with my body, trusting my body, surrendering into my body. So this is the softening piece that I'm talking about, like kind of going back to what we originally started with, learning to let down the walls, soften our hearts, letting love in, right? This is always one of my big things that I walk through with my clients is like, you think you want your partner to do things a certain way or that he's not loving you the way you want him to, but he would never be able to love you the way you want him to because you wouldn't let him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I've lived it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've totally done it too. And you used to even say that to me and I'd be like, no, I like, no, not at all. But I can totally see that now. And so there's just this like softening that feels so great to feel so comfortable in your own body and to let go, because even like my autoimmune stuff and inflammation in my body, it's all so connected and I wouldn't have known till I went through it. But now that I'm through it and in my body, I realize like all of it was protection mechanisms. And the more connected that I am to my body, the less of all of that there is. So it's just crazy to think for me about like how much trauma there is out there that we just medicate or spend our whole lives trying to, find the answer for, and spending thousands upon thousands of dollars and wasting all of our like prime years on, when ultimately, and I'm talking like physically, mentally, emotionally, but really physically in that degree, if we really just learn to release the stuff, the emotions, the feelings, the beliefs that are stuck in our bodies, holding us back because of fear, how great life really could be, right? How great our relationships could be, how great we would feel in our body, energized, excited to wake up and go create or live every single day. But to kind of just close that off, like, it obviously doesn't just happen overnight. And maybe that's what we come here for. Maybe that's our lifelong journey. For some of us, it is. For some of us, it's shorter than others. But one sec.
Well, I like it. Good job. You've been keeping this monologue going quite well for having your breath barely be there with your lungs in your throat. No, a lot of that makes perfect sense. I mean, like I say, I've just been taking this in a bit, but I mean, it's everything that we've been through, and I've witnessed it all, and I've always wanted to like interject. Well, I have, right? I've told you so many times that like, just let me in, let me do certain things, or let me, like you said, let me love you, right? Let me love you the way you deserve to be. And I want to, but both of us, I guess, we're in the right place to let that happen. Or you guys had so many walls built up that, I just couldn't get through them. Right. So it's pretty special to see this now and like see you breaking those down and moving through them and just watching you flow into the person you should be. And again, like I say, you have to do this. It's just too bad that we couldn't do this 10 years ago. Right. Mm-hmm. And be where we are now. But at the same time, at least it's happening now. And it's not like most things you see or most examples I see out there of like people do this till they're 45, 50, kids are gone. They look in the mirror and look at each other like, hey, well, let's get divorced. And then they go find someone else with those walls even built harder, thicker, higher that they'll never get through, and do the same thing over again and over again. Just beat yourself up all the way into retirement or whatever that looks like. So at least doing the work now, and this is the important stuff, right? And get it done. And then life will be so much better on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know you just said like at least, or not at least, you said too bad we couldn't have done this 10 years ago, or 10 years even prior, because we started 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also could flip that and say, well, thank goodness we're not doing this 10 years from now, right? But as you were saying, And my throat's like choking up. As you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, I could only allow you to love me to the degree that I believed I was lovable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could have loved me so much, but it sounds like I keep wanting to cry, but I think I literally have something stuck in my throat. I'm not that emotional about this, I promise. But yeah, so I think that that's a good kind of thing to leave it on, because I do feel like this has been a little bit all over the place. Like I said, I'm like in a million directions in my mind and in my body, like really coming into my body. But I mean, like I could literally go into labor like this second sitting here. I'm not. I wish I would. But or tonight or tomorrow or whatever. But then there's also like sinking into the uncertainty of like I could be even a few weeks, which is again this whole like coming back into my body and not putting restrictions and restraints on it, and then tensing and probably causing more complications or implications. And just the work that I've been doing and releasing a lot of my body is to just trust and to flow and sink deeper into my femininity and release the blocks around my heart so that I can let more love in. And so I think the final thing that I was gonna say, oh my gosh, is and this wasn't say before I almost choked a while back. Mike's looking at the clock.
No, I'm just making sure that it's recording because I really want to hear this.
Is that it is not a linear process, and your journey won't look like mine, but it could be shorter, it could be longer, it could be wavier, it could be higher peaks and higher lows, it could be less peaks and less lows. Like it doesn't matter. None of that matters. The comparison thing is like out the window. It's just a recognizing that we do have a journey. And when we do allow ourselves to even open up to the idea that things can be better, we can enjoy ourselves, our life more, that opportunities arise. And so I think that's essentially what I wanted to end on, and just say, come check out Reignited Relationships at therevivedcouple.com, because it's essentially all about honoring yourself to reignite your relationships. It's a little bit about your relationships with your partner, but it's like about the relationship that you have with yourself, so that I'll just sum this up by saying the degree that you love yourself, you can allow others to love you, and also even demand energetically that level of respect and that level of love for yourself.
That's awesome. That's a great way to sum that up. This has been a really good episode on, because we broke right away. You broke into it for the females or for the feminine. It's like, that's exactly what this is, right? Like that's exactly what feminine is to me anyway, of a million ideas, but they all come to the same. It's all the same thing.
There's like
right?
a thread that weaves them all together.
Absolutely,
somehow.
right? And that's awesome. And especially as men, right? Like I talk about this a lot for guys, this is the things that we have to embrace. And even just watching you talk about this, looking in your eyes, it's awesome. It's beautiful. It's good. It's awesome to see and to listen and to take that in, just to see where you're coming from and hear it all, and don't have to fix all that stuff, right? Like you're working on it, you're doing your thing. Obviously here to support in any way I can, but it's not my job to fix. It's not my mission to fight. Like I'm here for support, but that's about it, right? So yeah, it's been pretty special to see that. And I mean, this is the whole reason that I wanted this podcast. That's why we did that 2 years ago, is these conversations, so that people can hear and see and be part of these conversations, because that's what it is. I mean, this stuff is ongoing. It's always going to be ongoing. It's going to be forever, right? But to take that in and embrace it and like have fun with these conversations, and it just makes us stronger, it builds our relationship, and it just makes life so much easier, and it makes this house so much more special to be in, and like more fun for the kids, and more fun for a new baby when baby comes, right? And just easier. I've been talking about it a lot, just like easy. Just make it easy, right? Like life's hard, make it easy. And
easy doesn't necessarily mean like clean cut. Like
no, not at all.
This is it.
Just have fun, laugh, and just like it's there's so much more to that. But Anyway, okay, well, that's great. So definitely you've packaged that nicely. Those videos are awesome. I love it. So there's a few self-studies on the revivedcouple.com, right? So really setting things up quite nicely to walk people through things and be there with videos, be there with modules to walk them along all kinds of different courses. So yeah, like I say, check out the revivedcouple.com. There's lots there. Any questions, obviously send us an email or DM or anything like that. No, it's been awesome. I liked it. That's a great way to wrap this one up.
And now you guys and gals, have a look into Mike's life.
Welcome to my world.
I'm probably gonna hop off here and be like, oh my gosh, people are and be like, whoa, that was like all over the place. And then, but like knowing that that's just your normal life. This is our relationship.
This is my Saturday night. What are you doing? Anyway, okay. Well, it's awesome. I love you for that, and I always will.
Thank you. I love you too.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Check out our offerings on social media at The Revived Couple and online at therevivedcouple.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@larocklife.com or DM at The Revived Couple.
And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review.